we'll call to order. It's 1:04 and we can do roll call and introductions. And I don't feel like that's usurping her because she does know everyone who is here. So I am Rachel Sprague. I am one of the council members. I am calling from the island of Lanai. Jay?
Aloha, Jay Stone. I'm also one of the council members, and I'm calling from Honolulu.
And Michelle?
Michelle Lefebvre, council member calling from the island of Hawaii.
And I'll turn over to the ERP room.
Okay, here in the ERP Central, Tom Eisen, the head planner with the program.
And Kaylee, if you lean forward,
sorry.
there she is.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, ERP staff.
Yeah. And I'm Mary Alice Evans, Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, and of course, ERP staff and council staff as well.
There's another window open for other staff that's helping co-host the presentation here.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we do have a quorum, so why don't we at least go ahead with the first item, which is review and adoption of minutes from Tuesday, May 6th. Michelle and Jay, did either of you have any, do you need a minute to review or did you already take a look?
I did not. I could use a minute. Sorry.
Okay, let's take a minute and do a review read.
Haley, is there a copy of the minutes?
No, I can print it.
No, that's okay.
Do you have any additions or modifications, notes, edits to the minutes?
I do not.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from May 6th.
Second.
Well, we'll say Michelle gestured. We'll say Michelle, are you motioning?
I was going to say you need a motion before a second. Yeah.
Yes.
Then I'll move and
You will move.
And
Excellent.
then
And okay.
There
And
you go.
Jay seconds.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That was unanimous approval. Sorry, I'm just kind of killing time to hopefully have Dawn join us. Mary Alice, did you want to start on a director's report?
Sure. And I'll start by asking Michelle, what did Dawn say about whether she was going to attend or not?
Yep. She's should be about 3 minutes out, 3 or 2 minutes. She had said
okay.
5 minutes when I called. She
Yeah. All right.
had 1:30 in her head instead of 1, so she'll be here shortly.
Okay. So I wanted to let you know that Scott Glenn and I were invited to make a presentation to the Hawaii Judiciary's Environmental Court, which is the panel of judges that hear cases that involve environmental laws and land use laws. And so this was they reached out to me and Scott, I think in February, for their annual judges training. And Hey, Dawn, welcome.
Apologies.
No worries. Thanks, John. Do you want to very briefly just
I'll-
your name for the record?
Dawn Hager Nordblom on Maui, alone by myself.
Thank you, Don. Sorry,
Thank
back to you, Mary Alice.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I'm late.
No worries. So Don, I was just starting the director's report and
Okay.
letting the council know that Scott Glenn and I were invited to make a presentation to the Environmental Court of the Hawaii Judiciary, which through state law has the environmental cases expedited to environmental courts so that environmental cases don't have to go through a series of appeals, from district circuit court to the Intermediate Court of Appeals to the state Supreme Court, which in prior decades could take a decade. And that would, in fact, became a strategy on the part of opponents of some controversial projects to drag out the process, run up the costs, and make the project less feasible, but also served. So on the one hand, that was the result, whether it was intentional or not. But it also ran up the cost of housing should the court on housing projects end up issuing a decision in favor of the defendants. So that's kind of the background of why the environmental court exists, was to give developers a yes or no answer on a more speedy basis. So not to say that they would all get approved at all on whatever points of law were being challenged, but just that justice would be faster. So Scott and I, using the training PowerPoint that the ERP staff has been using to train agencies on, which of course does include a section on exemptions and all the basics, the triggers, the significance criteria, the 3 tracks that are available, exemptions within 343, EAs and EIS, etc. We provided our presentation, and then there was a period for question and answers. It was fairly short, and I don't recall anything that stood out for me, but I thought it was an opportunity to highlight. Scott and I came up with Tom with some of the emerging issues that we've noticed. One was the court cases that have been decided recently, well, within the last year or two, that permitting programs are subject to 343. Don will be very familiar with that one, I think. And let's see what else. We had some other emerging issues that we wanted the judges to be aware of in this area of Chapter 343. I think the point I want the council's awareness of is that this 343 is a very important law for both protection of natural resources in terms of providing the impacts to decision makers, and of course, allowing decision makers to try to mitigate some of those impacts because they've been provided the information. And it has also become a tool in some cases, a part of a strategy to oppose projects that are controversial. This is an area that, it's very important that the council, as you're aware of these, of the legal issues that are part of our Hawaii Environmental Policy Act, that we make recommendations, the council makes recommendations to the administration, to the legislature, on changes that may you deem appropriate to address issues of either lack of clarity or process that may, because this law has been around for 50 years, there has been a lot of changes in 50 years. And, the council, I think, has a really important role in looking at what changes may need to be made. And I think that will come out. Are we going to discuss the rule amendments that are being worked on?
It's not an agenda
Okay,
item.
I'll put it as part of the director's report. The ERP staff, as I think you know from last meeting, is working on a draft update of the rules to comply with Act 153 from 2021 that transferred the council to the Office of Planning, in which we never quite got haven't done yet. And it's it's been on our to-do list for a while. So probably by the next meeting, we will have a draft for the council's consideration to look at those rule changes. And at that point, as you think about the environment that this law supports, if there are other changes that you want to consider and recommend, we're hoping for your guidance on that. So Tara, I think that covers my report today. Questions?
Yeah, are there any questions?
Just the thought that as the implementing rules of NEPA are being proposed to be rescinded, it I think, at least for us, those of us in Hawaii, brings into laser focus the importance of our own, implementing rules for HEPA. And I'm currently, working on a combined HEPA-NEPA document, and while some sections would have just been cut, right, because of changes to the NEPA implementing regs, they remain in the document, because of the HEPA rules, and because it's a combined document. So it's a really, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but a very tumultuous time in the environmental review world. And
so I read the U.S. Department of Energy's rescission or rescinding of their original NEPA rules and their new replacement summary. I didn't read the whole rules. But what I picked up from that, Michelle, was that every single federal agency will be doing the same thing. They will be rescinding the rules as they stood prior to the beginning of the Trump administration and replacing that with rules that reflect President Trump's executive orders, which are going to could make major changes in the National Environmental Policy Act implementation by agency. So you're developing your document in a very fluid environment.
Well put. And I think, at least I've seen DOD's proposed, sort of first cut at their implementing guidelines. And you know, speaking of exemptions, it's a push towards Cat X's, which is the, you know, NEPA equivalent of exemptions. So it's a broadening, right, of what falls, you know, under a Cat X in the NEPA world. So yeah, it's interesting, but there's not much to sink your teeth into rules when you know, for implementing guidelines if there are no rules, right? If you're relying only on the law, because the law isn't NEPA law isn't very long. So yeah, but I'll be looking forward to seeing the proposed changes next meeting.
Great,
I have a
thanks.
question. When you refer to changes to the rules, which rules are we talking about?
11.200.1 or 11-200.1, which is the August 19th, 2019 version.
Okay.
Which, as you know, that was adopted prior to the 2021 law that transferred the council from the Department of Health to the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. And as soon as that happened, we had the intention to go ahead and make those rule changes, but the chair of the Rules Standing Committee, I think it might have been, termed out and wasn't able to complete that rule. For the changes to Chapter 341, which establishes the council, there was a draft of policies and procedures, and that was on my recommendation that the council itself could, you know, operate procedurally with policies and procedures rather than rule changes. But I'm not sure whether that was finalized either. Tom is shaking his head no. So there may be, so we may be looking at, let's start with the 343 ones, because those are the ones that are still could be adding to confusion and or you know, unclarity for folks who go back to the, you know, the rules but are aware that the law has changed. Some of those things, references. Jay, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary Alice. I think that's all helpful. Any other questions? All right, anything else you want to add, Mary Alice? Or is that?
No, I think that's I will say we're happy to have Kaylee here with us. We're very lucky. We're sharing her with law school and an internship. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Very fortunate.
Yeah, well, welcome. We're glad you're able to help support ERP and a little bit of the EAC as well.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next item. This is one where this is chair and vice chair assignments for the EAC. I am currently the chair. Given just some life and work stuff going on and some of the upcoming issues in front of the council, I am stepping down as the chair, though not stepping off the council. And so this is an item to amongst the council member or amongst the council members determine a chair and vice chair. I apologize. I can give more background if you but it's more of a yes.
No, it's
I
okay.
don't know that it's necessary. So
I don't think you need to give background. So I really sorry you're gonna step down as chair. So I guess that leaves, I don't think Michelle has the breadth because she's doing exemptions. So I think Jay, it's really up to you and me if you want to be chair or vice chair. And I don't think it's fair if for you either, Jay, because I know that you just stepped on the council. So, but I just wanted to say that, you know, we're all I guess, trying to get more members, so that the
Yeah.
burden shared, and we're not just, it's not for people. So,
Right.
yeah.
The, I don't have a preference, Don, to be
Okay.
honest.
Really.
Right. I think I could be the chair, but I think I guess it depends on how you think of protocol, right? Normally, the vice chair would move into the chair position, and then you would select a vice chair, right? So, I don't mind. I mean, I'm fine with becoming the chair. I just didn't want to be. I know we went through this before. I didn't think it made sense for me to become the chair, like literally when I first started
Yeah.
attending. That didn't make any sense to me. I
I
didn't
don't
understand how things were running.
Yeah, I don't mind
It's
being chair, Jay, if you want to
Uh-huh.
be vice chair. I
I'm
mean, I
fine.
think it's really hard to ask somebody to, who literally is their first couple sessions, to be in a position where, you're making changes or decisions. And I mean, it's the same for Rachel. I mean, you basically have been on, maybe the same amount, right? So anyway, but so do you want to be vice chair, Jay, or do you want to be chair and just decide? Michelle, you don't want to be chair, right? Or vice chair?
No, but I think, the sort of, yeah, having you step up into the chair role, Don, I think just, again, your longevity with, you've been with the EAC a little bit longer, makes more sense in my mind for you to move
Yeah.
chair and Jay to be vice chair. That would be, I
Okay,
think,
Yeah, that's the pragmatic, in my mind, the pragmatic decision.
okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I'll volunteer to be chair, and thank you, Jay, for volunteering to be vice chair, and
Sure.
Michelle to keep on staying on, and Rachel to stay on.
Do we need a motion then and vote?
I think so.
Probably. I'm
No.
looking at the ERP folks. If so, I would motion to
Yes.
nominate
Yes.
Dawn as the chair and to nominate Jay as vice chair, and would be looking for a second for that motion.
I'll second that.
Michelle, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
All those in favor of that slate?
All right.
And that is unanimous, so I am not going to call for any abstentions or nays. And we have additional members joining.
Yes, my cat, Kalohe, she's like, I would like to be part of the meeting too.
She would. I
Yeah.
mean, we could try to get her a nomination to join.
Yes, she's my service animal chair cat.
Okay, well, thank you, Dawn and Jay. I do appreciate it a lot. And I think we will continue to forge on, and hopefully, like we said, maybe we sort of put it on the agenda periodically of additional members, or things that we can do. I think this just falls. This is not up for discussion because it's not agendized. But I think I can speak for the entire EAC just to say that I think it is potentially wearing on all of us a little bit that there are so few members, and I think we feel a little bit challenged in sort of what we can do that's useful with the current membership. And I'm sure that you folks at ERP recognize that, but just to have it said, I think we're, anything we can do to help. And if there's discussions of different directions for the EAC or things like that are going on as well, that would be helpful to have, I think, so that because I think we feel a little bit like I don't want to say spinning our wheels, but like we're not sure what the direction is and where we can go with the current amount of members.
I would say that conversation started with the passing, I think, of Act 152. I mean, with the council before us, I mean, there was much philosophical and soul searching discussion that happened for almost a year and a half, right? Is the council tried to find its way, even with, right? But they were all terming out, but I mean, many discussions were had, and I think without a ton of resolution, except just try to keep doing what we do, but with fewer people. So yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely agree, Rachel. Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that it takes so long to get somebody nominated and then it takes so long for them to go through the Senate and confirmation, and that's a very difficult process to ask someone to wait, you know. So hopefully somebody will have been in the pipeline.
Yeah, so maybe that is for consideration on the next agenda if there are things that we could actually discuss there. Otherwise, yeah, I think we've all been trying to poke folks to apply. But yeah. Dawn, do you want me to continue or do you want to facilitate the rest of the agenda? I don't mind keeping going.
Do you mind continuing as your last?
Certainly,
Okay, I can do
certainly.
that. And then I'll be ready for the next month.
Yes, no, no, happy to. So,
Thank you. I appreciate
the
it.
next item is the exemption committee review public comments for the Department of Education exemption list.
So I just put in the group chat, we had gotten the response to the comments after the posting of the agenda, so we weren't able to link it. So that link is now in your group chat.
Thank you.
But we won't talk about the comments, right? I think because it wasn't, they didn't have a chance to talk about this.
Well, it's an agenda item, but you haven't seen it yet, I presume.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it the first exposure to it, so.
I mean,
Three-
the comments themselves were posted previously. It's just we
Yeah.
haven't
Right.
the response to those comments from DOE is new.
Right.
Is that right? Yeah.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm skimming them.
Haley, if we could post the DOE's comments on our website.
It is, it's
public.
already up.
Okay, you guys can discuss it because the public got it at the same time as you did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with their responses. I felt that the comment was as much on the regulatory language. It wasn't on the, sort of what DOE was proposing as a part one or a part two under that type, exemption type 3. So it seems that they've hit on that in comment responses 2 and 3, which is to say that bold text that you've edited. I mean, the letter itself was comparing the 2005 DOE list to the 2025 DOE list. And so they were pointing out where sort of the regulatory language had changed, I think, between 2005 or 2006 and 2025.
Seems like the initial comment letter, they thought that the addition of that language was an expansion of what the DOE was planning to do instead of just reiterating what the current admin rules state.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think the first response makes sense to me to clarify. So the DOE sent those letters. Oh, I see. Sent the letter to the commenter and CC'd ERP. Oh, okay. And the council. Okay. Great. Well, that was good. That was what we recommended to do. Super.
From a administration process, do we need to see if there are further comments from Hawaii's Thousand Friends? Or is this sufficient, you think?
There's nothing in the rules that requires we wait for a response back. In fact, it's sort of guidance that DOE responded. They have to show that they considered these responses, and I think this is the best way to do it. Is a letter in response. So,
okay.
I guess now, yeah, we can certainly, we don't need to act on this now. I guess Tom, take your thoughts or guidance, but I'd be inclined to wait a cycle before we sort of move to say, great, no other comments were received. Let's move to, accept this list as final.
Or whatever you were going to do next. I don't know if you're going to have further discussion with DOE about it or not, but that would be next.
Right.
Or just approving them as is.
Right.
Or
There was nothing in
considering them and approving or disapproving.
Yeah. To me, there was nothing in the comments that would result in a change to the list as DOE prepared it. So I wouldn't have any changes at this time, but open to discussion if other folks felt that changes needed to be made.
I take no exceptions to the response from DOE.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I'm glad that they responded and clarified the language.
Yeah, same.
So right, the action, or yeah, what would be next for us to do is to let DOE know, yeah, good response, good job. We don't see any other changes that need to be made, and that we would, I forget what it's called.
Concur to.
Concur with the list as is, and then finalize it, and then publish it as with the header on top that says, it's been concurred with by the EAC.
I have a question. Do we concur, or I don't? I use my language specifically like how in engineering when we review a submittal,
It is.
I'm taking no exception to what is stated.
No, it's
I'm not
concurrence.
agreeing or
it's not
disagreeing.
acceptance.
Okay.
We don't accept.
Ultimately, the council presumably concurs with the DOE's list
I see.
as amended. That's kind of giving your blessing of approval, so to speak, so that they can use it with noting that it's been concurred with.
I guess I look at it from a different point of view, right? We're an advisory capacity, right? So that's how I'm thinking of it. That's why my response would be is neither to concur or not concur, and neither to approve or disapprove, right? And that if we basically the advice is it essentially in effect is it's fine, and that we don't have issues with it. Does DOE need the council to concur? That's my question. Is that a requirement for us to do?
It is not a requirement for an agency to bring their list to us at all. They can go straight to ERP and request that ERP publish an exemption list. It then does not have, it would not then have that it's been concurred with. It doesn't sort of get the good housekeeping seal of approval. The rules allow for, I can't pull them up. Is anyone else having issues with the ERP website loading certain documents?
No.
Maybe it's my browser and some firewall has come up. But the rules recommend, right? Agencies may. Tom, I can't pull it up right now.
So that's one of the things. In some places it says shall, and other places may.
Yeah.
So there's inconsistency in
Right.
the rules. Certainly, it's a guidance document that agencies are encouraged to have. It's like if they choose to do it, then they shall do it in a certain way. Right.
But there is no requirement for them to go through us, but it's always been sort of a best practice. And in the rules, it encourages agencies to submit their list for concurrence by the EAC.
I see.
And so
that's the literal term in the reg for
rules.
review and concurrence.
You'll see on the list on the ERP website list that have gone through that process. They are in that folder. You click on it, and all the ones that have been approved, it's got the red across the top, concurred with by the EAC. So that's sort of a service that we offer. Is to agencies is to sort of help, right? Us and ERP and anyone from the public who wants to join and who cares. To review these lists and ask questions and help refine the list. So it's a service we offer.
Okay. I
Good
understand that.
value.
Yeah, that's the actual term in the regulation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I've always looked at it as obviously I've been less close to the exemptions than Michelle or Ron, but that the EAC might choose not to concur, but we would sort of more if we have been asked to review and concur by an agency, we would sort of want there to be a reason why we went partway through the process and then did not choose to concur with their list.
Right.
And
So in this, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
that could be that you felt that their list was not consistent with Chapter 343's
Right.
statutory
Right.
list of exemptions, because that's
Right.
the authority on which the exemption lists rely. I mean, you know, they're helpful, but they're not statute, and they're not even rules. They're guidance. But I think Tom and I were talking that as a agency brings on a new planner or engineer or architect, you know, those exemption lists are helpful so that they don't have to. They learn by seeing what's already exempt within 343 for their agency, and they don't have to, you know, go through the whole process of reasoning for every single small job that you know, their department or agency does. The goal is to streamline that part of it. Still subject to judicial challenge. So should an agency submit an exemption list and somebody thinks that it's not eligible for exemption, you know, that organization or individual has the ability to file a judicial challenge.
They would, to clarify, challenge a specific application.
Yeah.
Not the list in general, but if
No,
if an exemption notice was actually made,
actual task.
that could be challenged.
But I did find the language, and each agency through time and experience may develop its own exemption list consistent with both the letter and intent expressed in this subchapter and in chapter 343. And it explains for what activities. And then under part D, it says these exemption lists and any amendments to the exemption list shall be submitted to the council for review and concurrence no later than 7 years after the previous concurrence, provided that in the event the council is unable to meet due to quorum when a concurrence for an exemption list is 7 years or older, the agency may submit a letter to the council acknowledging that the existing exemption list is still valid. Upon attaining quorum, the council shall review the exemption list for concurrence. The council may review agency exemption lists periodically. So I think unequivocally it's our responsibility to review the list that we've been given and to concur or not concur with those lists.
Yeah, the way it's written, it's you don't have an option not to do it one way or the other. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jay. So it seems like what I'm hearing is that, right, so the Thousand Friends commented, HDOE responded to their comments. We don't have any major concerns on the part of the council on the response to those comments. Like, we are comfortable with that response and the way that DOE currently has their exemption list written for the purposes of process, etc. We will wait and agendize at the next meeting an action
I think
item.
that would be prudent. Yeah, wait till the next meeting, and then I would add, suppose we add an agenda item to concur with the final list.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. That makes sense.
That sounds good.
And
So that we can make
more correspondence happens between we don't need to, I think, rush through that just now, but I think next meeting will be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then we can make sure that the agenda item is is identifying that we're intending on taking a vote on that item and that it's not solely discussion of public comment. So yeah, I think that
Yeah.
we can just be extra sure in case anyone really wants to show up and talk about it more. We can do that. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Is there anything else on exemptions right now?
Under the next bullet, we'll get back to it.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. Okay. All right, then agenda item number 6 is the Information Outreach Committee, of which we are a committee of the whole. So we are continuing to just have these discussions as a group so that we don't have a meeting and then have to repeat it again for ourselves. So updates on Hawaii Congress of Planning officials and a discussion of a forum at that conference. Thank you, Michelle and Dawn and folks for reaching out to various potential speakers to coordinate. I don't know which one of you wants to update.
Yeah, I reached out to Ron and Onauna. I prepared responses to the sort of prompts in the HCPO session request, if you wanted to have a session. So circulated that among the group for everybody to review to make sure, and Tom, to make sure we were all sort of on the same page, and got good feedback from Onauna and Ron that they were good to go on what I had proposed. Tom, I don't think you weighed in on that discussion, but yours was pretty straightforward, so I wasn't.
Yeah, I said I'll participate. However it turns out to be, I'll gladly participate.
So I submitted that, but I did not hear back from HCPO whether the oh, there's a hand up. There's a hand up.
Right. Michelle, thank you for submitting that. We've been having some discussions with the HCPO Programming Committee, which is an internal committee of about 7 of us from our different OPSD programs. Tom and I both sit on that. And we had been, we're looking at the proposal and wondering if it falls into a training or a discussion about the Chapter 343 and the rules as regard to the area of exemptions, which of course is right now a hot topic, in terms of legal decisions and judicial challenges, and an area that could be broader than just here's how you do it. Michelle, how would you characterize, if it's a training, we're inclined to assign it a time slot on Friday afternoon, then it'd be up to the HCPO attendees to whether they want to stay after the official close of that. Would be a post-conference session. If it's going to be more of a panel discussion of the current range of viewpoints on exemptions, both in terms of what the courts have been asked to decide, the court decisions, various stakeholders, then we're going to try to find a space on Friday morning, which is part of the regular program for HCPO, not post-session, part of the Friday morning one. So how would you, Michelle, how would you characterize how you want to proceed with your session, your panel?
It certainly was, I think, developed more in the sort of discussion viewpoints framework rather than a training. I think we'd have to revisit with Ron and Nana. I think if we did more of a training style,
could you, as a facilitator or moderator, Michelle, could you pose questions to your panelists, including yourself, on, where you see the courts going with, with various decisions regarding 343, where you see various stakeholders, like for instance, Hawaii's Thousand Friends, but others as well, trying to assert different viewpoints. I think we heard some of those come across very strongly in some testimony, some hearings this legislative session on a bill that would have extended the court's moratorium on cancellation of permits for commercial boat operators out of, I think, Kaanapali, that were subject to a court decision that DLNR needed to comply with 343 for their commercial operators permits. And we heard strong viewpoints from a variety of people who were both supportive of that and in strong opposition of that. Would question and answers that offered an opportunity for your panelists to reflect on where that's going be what you might consider a good framework for your panel?
Yeah, I mean, Don and I talked about this quite a bit as we were developing this idea. We envisioned maybe both of us co-facilitating or co-moderating it, just to help flesh out the panel. We bring different perspectives based on our work experience. So certainly we envisioned, allowing each panelist a little bit of time to talk. And then Don and I, if you're still interested, Don, facilitating, fielding questions, I think, from the audience without getting into, that sort of same thing we had sort of talked about for online, when we were talking about it as a forum, not sort of running specific projects through an exemption. Hey, should this be an exemption or not? Certainly I don't think want to entertain,
maybe the principles that those specific projects have raised as question marks.
Yeah, I think implications, like you said, perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Then I think we could definitely put that on for Friday morning, because you're taking the broader approach. He's not just training on how to develop an exemption list. Great. I'm pleased to hear that.
Well, we followed your suggestion. You recommended that we.
Good.
He said, please write in, please suggest a forum. So we did. Great.
I'll send you the PowerPoint that Scott Glenn and I provided to the environmental court, which has that one slide on emerging issues and another slide on I think legal proceedings, which might you can ignore it or use it however you wish.
I'm very interested. I almost asked earlier and I didn't know if I was, asked. I shouldn't, but I was like, well, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I do have a couple maybe administrative housekeeping things. So, if we are going to be part of the session, do we want to make sure like the questions are, do we want to have questions beforehand so we know what some questions might be, and have people sending us an email perhaps?
Good preparation is always useful.
Because and then obviously we would have a discussion, but we wouldn't further that discussion so that somebody could run with our conversation and put it in a lawyerly lawsuit, like the environmental council said this on Friday, etc.
We could have a table too with strips of paper, and folks could.
Yeah.
You don't have the advantage of preparing ahead of time, but I mean, I think, yeah, think about how to do that.
Yeah. Because I'm sure a lot of people would show up just to go to that, interested parties or the public would show up just to be able to say something. And I definitely don't want to get anyone in trouble. And I definitely don't want to be, part of a lawsuit further down the line.
There's no basis for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Yeah,
saying,
I think
gotta protect the state workers.
I think given who the panelists are and their sensitivity to the issue, I really don't see us straying
Yeah.
there. Oh, now on the run, Tom. I don't see anyone being like, let me tell you how you should do your exemption. For this.
HCPO, let me be very clear. HCPO is not a state organization. It is a partnership between state agencies and the Hawaii American Planning Association Hawaii chapter, but it does not have, it's not a state agency.
Mhm.
So when it puts on a conference, it's for educational purposes only. There's no sunshine law application whatsoever. It does not take action. Oh, yes, we do. We pass a resolution at the end of the conference to thank the hotel workers. That's the extent of the action.
Okay.
Oh, and also to inform people of who gets the next year's conference, because we rotate among the 4 county planning departments and the state planning agencies. So I think worrying about legal action resulting from an educational panel may be over worrying.
Okay.
Good preparation might suggest having some questions in case none come, but I suspect there will be questions. The one thing about having the meeting on Friday morning is that it's competing with numerous other things happening at the same time. So people they'll have to decide whether to attend this or something else. But I think it's a great choice to do it on.
So
in the
I
morning
think the
session.
other choice will be planning ethics, which is a required course for planners who are maintaining their American Institute of Certified Planners certification through their CM credits, which is so but so not every planner or attendee is an AICP member, and so there will be plenty of attendees that may not be interested in that one, and we'll be looking for other choices.
Sure.
Ethics tends to be dry.
Yeah.
Just as a
Okay. Is there any other input or anything on the part of the EAC that would be helpful to support planning for it additionally at this point? Or is it?
Well, we'll have one more meeting, I think, before the actual HCPO conference. So hopefully we can get a lot of things out of the way at the next meeting before the conference.
I'll flush out some of the
That they get it through the process.
Format. I have a question. Michelle and Donna, are you both registered for the conference at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And did you get the early bird rate?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Want to make sure all speakers get that discounted rate. That is the only discount we can offer, because this conference, unlike others, does not have a multi-billion-dollar corporation as a sponsor. It has to break even on its local sponsors and attendees. That's it. I say that because I'm contrasting it with one of DBED's upcoming conferences on artificial intelligence, which is being sponsored by Google. So of course, that's totally free to the attendees. But this annual conference is not like that at all. So thank you for registering. I deeply appreciate that. Jay, are you going to be able to attend? I'm hoping.
I'm not sure I'll be able to attend. I don't normally go to the HCPO because I'm not a planner. So I still need to decide if I can fit it in to my schedule.
Understood. Thank you.
But I believe several of my coworkers will be there because we do have a planning section.
And I think there's a virtual option. Is there? Does anybody remember? We try to encourage people to come in person simply because it's an opportunity to talk to your colleagues, in sessions and out of sessions, about topical planning topics.
I don't see it under registration.
Okay.
But it's strange to me because there's 2 general attendee options to pick, which doesn't make sense to me. And one says July 2nd to August 29.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what that is, Jay. The first one is the early bird option.
I see.
So it was a discounted rate, and the second is the regular registration.
Right. Okay.
And then of course, our conference coordinator insists we have a late registration, which is to really motivate people to register early.
Right. No, that makes sense. I do that. Yeah. I suggest that for the other conferences that I plan for.
Okay, excellent. All right, so it sounds like things are going smoothly for that forum right now. Really glad that Onana and Ron are going to be able to join that. That's awesome.
And Tom.
And Tom, yes. In addition to the current those currently present, but yeah. All right. I think, are there any other things that Jay, Dawn, Michelle, that you folks have been thinking about that you would like to see on future agendas that you think we should talk about?
I think there's one, Jay, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Polyfluorocarbon, is that right? That you were
perfluoroalkyl substances.
I was thinking that there was an article that was quite interesting from the firefighters of Lahaina and how they found these trace elements in their bloodstream or their body. And I actually thought it'd be very interesting to see if anyone would want to attend one of those sessions. And I did reach out to the author of the article, but I haven't heard back yet, like who their contacts were. So I was just thinking along those lines of maybe it would be interesting because as we see now, climate change and floods and droughts will affect the human body, not just in terms of wastewater and, fire issues, but I thought that would be a very interesting session. So that was just one of the things that I was thinking about, but hadn't been able to get far on.
A session for the HCPO or one of our outreach sessions that we used to have?
I
thought we were discussing it to be an outreach session.
Yes, one of the outreach sessions further down the line.
Right. But I think when we decided my feeling, I don't know if we decided this, but when the topic of the HCPO came up, became the focus, right? Yeah. Versus trying to hold another session.
Correct.
So I agree. Like you say, further down the line.
Yeah.
So, I can reach out to my colleagues in the industry and see, what interest they would have into putting on a session. I'm assuming it'd be like an hour or 2 at the most.
Yeah. Maybe less, 1 hour.
Yeah, and Mary Alice, I have a thought on that too, but Mary Alice, do you want to go ahead?
Oh no, I'll wait till you've completed your thought.
Oh, well, it was more just based on like I know that the EAC generally speaking has gone through, as Michelle and Don knows, a number of times of thinking about sort of strategic planning and like what do we want to do, what do we want to focus on, and I don't know whether it might be useful to have like I can think of again it's mainly that that was making me think of other things like that we've talked about and not done of like cesspools or other things to talk about, and I don't know whether it might be useful to maybe we agendize sort of a strategic planning time to at least like review, because I don't know if Jay has had time to look at, or if I probably could stand to go back and look at some of the strategic planning documents and thoughts that Robin had led in previous sessions and just sort of remind ourselves and think about what we want to try to accomplish going forward. This is mainly because I tend to get overwhelmed by ideas that I can come up with to do, and then they all seem very exciting, and then none of them end up happening because there are too many, and and I mean, and I think it's maybe, and again, and maybe throwing it out there, one of those things is sort of topical ideas that we don't spend a ton of, like that we don't spend a year planning, but that we try to that we just sort of try to raise up ideas that are somewhat timely just as we go, and that's one option, and another option might be we kind of lay out a roadmap for things that we think and try to prioritize, because again I know that we won't be able to do anything, but just throwing that out for consideration as we're thinking about how we want to go forward and spend our time.
Yeah, I'm open to any ideas. I think it just, once it's fermented that, yes, this is what we want to do, then, it's fairly easy to get, well, the people I know, normally I can say, hey, do you want to be on this panel? And it's a yes or no fairly quickly. And, the emails and setting it up is pretty
Yeah,
easy.
totally.
Yeah, so it's just really like, do we agree on the idea and when do we want to do it? And then it's just more of a goal marker at that point. So.
Yes, Mary Alice.
I was gonna write in concert with your idea is if you want to on your next meeting agendize whether you want to discuss any bills to be submitted by OPSD that would either revise Chapter 341 or Chapter 343. That would be putting in bills through the governor's bill package review process, which isn't a guarantee that the bill will be, included in the governor's package, because inevitably, the AG's office kicks out a bunch, and there's, the governor doesn't want to have 1,000 bills in his bill package. He wants to have 300 or something like that. But it is an opportunity now that you've, all four of you have, seen where we are now, and you may think, hey, this is an opportunity to reflect on whether you'd like to propose some legislative changes to the two statutes. And if you hold your next meeting in September, it will follow the HCPO, and you may have gotten some ideas through the session that Michelle and Dawn will be moderating.
That's a good thought, that there may be some items that might come up during that forum that might spark ideas on, again, kind of direction of the EAC.
I mean, for instance, maybe you want to take the advisory out of the name of the council and go back to the environmental council, and figure out if there's some areas that you think the council should have some authority to take action on, or maybe you want to look at 343 and say, the rules aren't enough to clarify this area, and it needs, before the rules can be clear, the statute needs to be clear. So, I see lots of possibilities then, and I want the council to be, I prefer to have you take the lead, in coming up with those ideas.
So is this something that has to be agendized? Because I would definitely drop the advisory out of Environmental Advisory Council and go back to Environmental Council. But isn't this a discussion that has to be sunshined at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mary Alice, I guess I was hearing it as not like a proposal that we start talking about those things now,
Right.
but yeah, but like for us to think about to agendize a conversation around if there
Yeah.
were to be proposed, if the current EAC were to propose potential bills or modifications to Chapter 341 or 343, or the purpose of the council or the purview of the council, that those would just be things that we should think about between now and kind of August or September, and but be maybe want to think about putting that on an agenda to talk about.
I think
Yeah,
we should.
That's
I
what
think
I'm
we-
suggesting.
Yeah, I think we should definitely should. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Okay.
I don't, yes, that was not a disagreeing. That was more of a, yes, we should talk about it, but yes, we should also sunshine it and put it on an agenda.
So just a little housekeeping issue. So Jay, since you're vice chair and I will be chair, so I usually do the agenda with help from ERP staff, and then it goes to you as well, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong. And so you'll also be able to look at the agenda and see if
Okay,
additional comments.
sure.
Yeah, and there's generally would be a call for agenda items from any of the members as well. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other, well, so looking at ahead to the next meetings, the first Tuesday of August is August 5th.
I'll be traveling.
Yeah, I will also be traveling.
Yeah. I would. It would be difficult for me to attend because I'll be in another country at that time.
What does August 12th look like?
I'm still traveling. I don't
Okay.
return until the 19th of August. I leave on the
What
1st,
about-
and I come back
I'll
on the
be out
19th.
state as well, but I'm not a member.
I mean, yes, I know August actually has, I think, a history of being challenging, largely because it is like it's a travel month for people always, 'cause summer and things and work. I guess this is sort of a Michelle and Dawn. How important do you think it is is there any, like, how important do you think it is to have an EAC meeting for input for the HCPO conference, or is it possible to have any conversations that need to be had? Like, again, that's not an EAC action necessarily, and so I don't know that it needs an EAC meeting. It's some of the EAC members and ERP staff were helping to organize that forum, but I don't know that there's not like any votes or any action that I think will need to be taken. I want to support Tom and other folks.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with doing it by email or phone calls, any planning that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we could have a meeting on the 12th, like unfortunately, without Mary Alice and Jay, but it might be just an abbreviated, a shorter. We could have a meeting with an agenda and stuff. It's just wouldn't have as a director's report. And I could make it on the 12th. It would just, Donna and Michelle and I would all need to be there if we wanted to have a.
The advantage is we could finalize, we could invite DOE and the public to comment on their final list and not put that off another month.
Okay. Yeah.
One advantage of meeting on the 12th.
I'm fine either way.
And
I'm very
let me
flexible.
clarify. I could be available, but it would have to be earlier in the day, Hawaii time.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
That's the thing. That's the only thing. I can't. 1 o'clock Hawaii time. I would not be available where I am. It'd have to be much earlier, like
Yeah.
11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock Hawaii time.
That's
for me
fine.
to be able to
For-
attend.
I think we used to have all our executive committee meetings like at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we had the actual EAC meeting in the afternoon. So there was always time in the morning. So I think the day is open.
I have 3 hour blocks of Tuesday meetings every other week. So on the 12th, though, I don't have that 3 hour block. So I could meet earlier on the 12th, but I could not meet earlier on the 5th.
Okay. I could also meet earlier in the day on the 12th.
What time is
Does
it?
that throw y'all's,
Nope.
or I'm like looking at Tom, does that throw, I know that Mary Alice would still not necessarily be able to be
I'm not
there.
around, so I could meet earlier.
Sure. So this would take sense.
Yeah, I could meet on a Tuesday earlier than 1 o'clock in the morning.
Jay, what time?
Yeah,
Okay. I was just gonna say for Jay, since you're got the if you wanted to meet, what time Hawaii time in the morning could you meet? If you wanted to.
The safest for me would probably be 9 o'clock.
Okay.
9 in the morning. That way it gives, I don't know how long the meeting's gonna go. That gives me enough time to get ready for my field work that day.
Okay.
Tom,
Fine
does
with me.
that work for you? 9?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Setting the calendar now.
okay. All right, so we're August 12th at 9 a.m. aiming for, and then we'll deal with August or with September from there. Okay. Are there any other items, housekeeping or otherwise, for the good of the order? All right. Thank you all. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to
Michelle,
adjourn.
seconded by Dawn. All those in favor?
I
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you all. We will talk to you in August.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Aloha.
Thanks.
See ya.